for his last session in 2020. Can you imagine 2020? Happy New Year. What you doing New Year's Eve? I went to see Burton Cummings in Truro, Nova Scotia, an hour outside of Halifax. Like Nickelback said, the giant of the Canadian music industry. Really, truly. And his imagine his 72nd birthday. Imagine that. And I have spent time with my cousin, I haven't seen for 15 years or more. So, heard the man. So have your own way to rock in 2020. Piano coming into the new year 2020. Give it a little bit of piano solo here. Wow! A little bit of fun. Let's have some fun, okay? It's not too serious here. Closing out my last session until the spring. Like I said last time, where I'm going to be doing a major aggressive, I got it all set up, radio blitz to every CFL city, okay, major city in Canada, including Halifax here. We got some stuff to roll out here that, okay, I hope I didn't leave it. I have to stand up tall, like stand tall, like Burton Cummings. As I'm talking to you, I'm going to find everything I need to find here, because that's the way it's going to be, because there's commercial stuff. But what went on in Halifax, okay, with Atlantic Schooners, there was a vote not too long ago to can it. I did a session on that. A councillor wanted to end the whole thing. You know, pompous, arrogant, rude, ignorant councillor. 7 of them, by the way. So anyway, so what happened was there was another session. They would come back in December to decide whether or not to go for it, because to kill it on the motion by Sam Austin, it didn't go through. So it went on to the next stage of it. Okay, so in December they came back, early December, to see what the deal was going to be, if they're going to go forward or they're going to can the whole thing. So this is what happened and transpired. Okay, and there was an update by Steve Murphy, who I know personally, who's done wonders. Really, he's really done wonders. He's done a great job on reporting on the Atlantic Schooners and LeBlanc, the LeBlanc group. And as I'm talking to you, I just want to tell you that I was very disappointed with the 7 councillors that tried to can it. And you'll see what happened here. I won't give it all to you, because there's 2 videos I want to show you, okay? And we're in 4 minutes already into the session, so we got to get moving here. But there's commercials here, so I'll be talking in between the commercial. And I didn't bring my headphone, which I meant to bring. Okay, and it looks like it's upside down. There, thank you so much. But we'll wait through the commercials. But anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch, there's a lot going on, okay, in the CFL right now, with the NFL window, with a lot of CFL players and teams releasing players, because there's a discrepancy. Here we go. We're going into the first part already. I didn't think that was going to happen. But we're going to go right into the first part. I'll get back to that NFL window. Let's go right into Atlantic Schooners, okay, with Steve Murphy. Okay, let's see what's happened here. Okay, okay, we lost that a bit. Okay.
The Regional Council has voted this afternoon in favor of contributing $20 million to the project, so long as the stadium is not built on the location being proposed. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth live at Old City Hall with details and reaction. It's a developing story, Paul.
Absolutely, Steve. This meeting ended a short time ago. It was more than 2 hours long, and Steve, it was a grind. Lots of debate going back and forth from a council standpoint. We can tell you that of the 10-7 vote for the councillors, it appears that the 10 who voted yes had their minds made up leading into this vote, and they stuck with their decision. But we have to press, Steve, this point. Just because they voted this way does not mean a stadium will be built and that a team for the CFL is coming. It does mean the stadium issue did not die today. And Anthony LeBlanc from Schooners Sports and Entertainment was breathing a heavy sigh of relief.
This could have gone very much the other way, where we would be pretty much dead in our tracks. So we are very excited that the process is moving forward, and now there's some teeth into this thing. There's some real commitment from HRM, and based off of conditions that we feel very comfortable that we'll be able to manage.
And minds were changed by the staff report. This wouldn't have passed, 2 weeks ago, were based on the submission that Anthony and the team gave us. I think the risk was too high, but I think to be able to get a $100+ million asset for $20 million, and we'll get some property tax back on that as well. So potentially it could actually make more money than it costs the city, is a very significant deal. I think councillors looked at that and said, you know what, it makes sense under those conditions.
And Steve, a lot of people wondering what happens next. Well, that question is a lot to unpack. First of all, Anthony LeBlanc, as you mentioned, needs to find a new location. Shannon Park is off the table. We can tell you Councillor Mancini mentioned a possible Woodside location at the Woodside Industrial Park. He was speaking of the Novacor land, which is owned by the province. That could be a potential partnership. Another councillor mentioned Dartmouth Crossing. Another councillor mentioned the exhibition land near Prospect, Nova Scotia. Bottom line, Steve, he has about 3 to 6 months to find a new location, to find more funding partners going forward. But the ongoing stadium narrative, Steve, the debate that's gone on now for 40 years in Halifax, did not die today. It continued. The HRM pledging $20 million towards a stadium that, if it gets built, Steve, at a location not called Shannon Park. Steve.
It's a first down anyway, Paul. Thank you. Anthony LeBlanc live with us later in the half hour.
I'm going to have that video very soon. There's going to be commercials here. But $20 million, by the way, is a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket. Come on, $86 million for the old forum, $80 million for an art gallery that Premier McNeil went to, $80 million. Our taxpayers' money. $86 million, like an art gallery that'll lose tens of millions. Halifax Forum, a lot of people think it should be torn down. It's a historical thing, heritage thing. $86 million. Now, can you imagine? That money could build quite a CFL model stadium that could host a Grey Cup game. There's your $160 to $170 million stadium. I can't believe they have no vision, and I can't believe the 7 councils that voted against it. Okay, you can find them online. Just go on Let's Talk Atlantic Schooners, or you can find it on the Rider Forum right here, Saskatchewan Rough Rider Forum site. You can find those names of those people, those so-called councillors. They were so rude and so ignorant and so pompous and arrogant, running down their own brand of CFL 3-down football in their own country. Can you imagine? And the Grey Cup. It was unbelievable. Grandstanding. Okay, here we go. I can't believe it's going fast here. We're getting things done here. We're going to the interview. I'll get back to you. I add more to what I was about to say about these horrible naysaying, no vision, bonehead councillors that voted against it. So here's Anthony LeBlanc and Steve Murphy in the interview. Uh-oh. Here we go. Here we go.
The Halifax area is still alive tonight. The Regional Council has voted narrowly in favor of a staff recommendation to provide $20 million for a stadium, but only after it's built, and so long as it's not on the location being proposed by the group proposing to build it. So the question is that good enough for those people? Well, Anthony LeBlanc is the president of Schooners Sports and Entertainment. He is those people. He's with us here tonight. Good of you to come.
Good to be back.
You look happy, but I'm trying to figure out just how happy you are and whether you could be happier. So where are you on the happiness scale?
We're pretty high on the happiness scale. It's been an eventful, I guess you could say, 6 weeks since there was a motion to kill the stadium proposal altogether.
Right.
really a lot of work, in particular in the last 2 weeks with city staff, and we're very happy with where things went today.
The council has today said yes to something that is much different than what you proposed. In fact, they've said yes to something that you specifically didn't ask for. So is this a done deal? We know it's not a dead deal, but is it somewhere between dead and done?
Well, and not to correct you, but we submitted a proposal at the end of August that had 4 options, and one of the options is actually the option that went forward today. I think we had said 22 million up front, and it came in at 20 million.
But at the back end?
No, I think it was at the front end, but regardless, we're okay. We're certainly okay with the concept that came forward. Obviously, the big change that came forward in the last week or so were concerns in regards to Shannon Park.
Okay, I want to come to Shannon Park, but I do need to ask you this. Can you build the kind and size of stadium that you want on the terms that are now being offered
100%.
by the municipality?
100%.
100%. Okay. The council won't support Shannon Park. That's pretty clear. You're going to have to go somewhere else. So if not Shannon Park, where are you willing to build this project?
Well, I mean, we were pretty open throughout the process leading up to a selection of Shannon Park that we were working with a number of different sites, and a couple of them were bandied about today. We've been pretty open. I mean, we've talked to the folks over at Dartmouth Crossing. We've looked at Bayers Lake. The airport has come up. There's a new potential site over in the Woodside area. Now, that one is a little bit trickier because my understanding is the province just recently sold that land. So it comes down to, does the landowner have an appetite of discussing that? But I'd say there's 4 or 5 sites, but the key is going to be working with HRM over the next couple of weeks to ensure that whatever the final site is, it ticks off the boxes that were highlighted today.
Who is going to decide, Mr. LeBlanc, what the final site is? Is the city going to have final right of approval on that?
I think what it'll come down to, what it comes down to is we have been told there are 2 things that are of extreme importance in regards to the site. It has to have infrastructure in place because HRM does not want to get into a situation where they're on the hook for tens of $millions of infrastructure.
So they want the roads, the exits,
Exactly.
they want ferry terminals nearby.
If it's appropriate, ferry terminals, exactly, 100 series highways. And the other thing is ensuring that it's a site that can support transit. We've said from the beginning transit is going to be very important and access to the site. And that was the big concern, unfortunately, that came with Shannon.
Is there any site on the peninsula of Halifax that you will consider?
We would absolutely consider anything that falls within those parameters. We need roughly 20 to 25 acres. Look, it was interesting last Friday when the staff report was released publicly. My phone kind of lit up of people calling that have land that they would like to have us consider. This is the time. If there is a site that I don't know about in the peninsula, we'd be all ears.
Halifax is basically agreeing to give you about 20% of the cost of a $100 million project. It's maybe a little more than that. There won't be any loan guarantees. So how certain are you that you can raise the kind of money needed to basically go this alone?
Well, obviously the next step is to sit down with the province. They have been at the table throughout, but they've been very clear they don't want to get engaged in a deep manner until we cross the hurdle that we did today with HRM. So we've been very upfront throughout this process, Steve, that we need both HRM and the province.
I've never heard you Premier offer a penny for this project.
Well, what he has said is he has a very open appetite, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he has an open appetite to looking at creative ways that the province can be involved. But you're right, he's been very clear. General revenues have never been something that are on the table, and we understand that. So I think that what we'll want to do is work with the province to see if there's creative ways to make this happen.
What are creative ways the province could be involved?
I think there's a number of ways. I think what needs to happen is what are the incremental revenues that are being generated because of a stadium? You know, obviously there's been some ideas that have been thrown out there, such as hotel bed tax and car rental taxes, but there's been some consternation around that, and I understand the industry's involved having concerns, especially if they haven't been at the table. But what we've seen in other jurisdictions it's pretty easy to be able to say, okay, the stadium itself is creating this certain amount of economics from game days and from concerts, things like that. Those types of revenues are the things that should easily be able to go back into a project. And I wouldn't say it's creative, it's just reinvesting the monies that come in through the stadium itself.
Are you able to put $80 million into this project? Well, I mean, are you able to do it without the province?
No, absolutely not. We've made it clear that at a minimum, two levels of government need to be involved. We've said this from day one. I've been coming on your show now for the better part of 2 years, and we've been very clear about that.
But what we've been discussing for the entire 2 years is politicians saying there's no money, there's no money, there's no money, and you're saying there has to be money, there has to be money in some form.
Correct, and we saw today an approval from Halifax Regional Municipality Council to put some real money into this project.
The city says, the municipality says it doesn't want to own the stadium and it will not operate it. You're good with that?
100%. We've said that from the beginning, that we would take on the sole operational risk, which is multi-million-dollars a year. And from the ownership, that'll be decided. More than likely, these types of buildings get owned by a third-party umbrella group that's usually a not-for-profit. And that's where my head is leaning right now, but that'll get worked out here over the next couple of months.
So what has to happen now to make this project go ahead?
We have to select the site in conjunction with HRM to ensure it ticks those boxes. That I think happens relatively quickly. We then have to put together an agreement, a final agreement, which goes back to council, and obviously we need to work closely with the province.
And what does this now do to the timeline for a CFL team?
So the CFL,
Halifax.
I think it continues to be in that 2022 range. We are still very open to the concept of looking at a temporary stadium. We've mentioned publicly the idea of Moncton perhaps being that location for a year or two.
But you didn't have a great day at Moncton.
You know what? It turned out okay, but also we can't. That would be an apples to oranges comparison.
Okay.
Cheering on two teams not from that region, as opposed to your own home team, is a totally different thing.
So you are still open to the idea of bringing in the team and playing them somewhere else?
While the stadium's being built, absolutely.
Is the pop-up stadium on the Halifax Peninsula a possibility for you?
Again, we're open to concepts that make sense. A pop-up stadium for CFL probably wouldn't be something that the league itself would be all that amenable to, neither would we. The economics probably aren't there to support it. But pop-up stadium in a near term, while a larger stadium's being built, I'm all ears.
You've already told me you're a betting man, so how much money are you putting on this now?
Obviously, we've been spending a lot of money getting to this point in professional services to get here.
Is it better than 50-50 now?
I think that, well, it's interesting. You and I talked off camera that if you asked us 3 weeks ago, probably was like 10%.
Right.
I think going in today was 50-50. I think today we're in the 70 to 80 percentile range.
All right, we'll stay in touch. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Stan.
Anthony LeBlanc, president of Schooner Sport and Entertainment, and he says he's a happy man. Back with more in just a moment.
There you go. Lots of coverage there. Lots of coverage. Lots of coverage. Lots of coverage. But I'll make some comments on this. It's what's interesting. Before I do that, I put my set back up, and inexplicably, whatever happened to my Spider-Man picture? That's me in my Spider-Man costume. When I used to go around to my customers in Halloween and dress up in my Spider-Man costume. Anyway, it's always been on my set, but it just didn't all of a sudden disappear. I forgot to put it there, okay? Blame it on the Spider-Man. Blame it on Spyder. But anyway, getting back to what he was saying there, Mr. LeBlanc. Now, here's what I think is going to transpire. I mean, Steve Murphy's right. He hit it right on the first down. Now, I happened to run into a council that voted yes. I won't say who that person was, but I found out some information. And they had to get it to this point. So that $20 million could end up being more, and it's probably going to have to be, because it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, they spent $50 million on a 4-pad in Dartmouth Crossing. They spent almost $40 million to renovate the sports plex not too long ago. Come on. For a major stadium for Halifax, you can't build a half a stadium either. You think Halifax would build a half a 4-pad or spend half the money to renovate the old Halifax Forum, like only do it half, or the province build half a hospital? Come on, Premier McNeil and Mayor Savage, come on, stop, stop snowing people here. Let's be honest here, okay, in 2020. Why hasn't this question be asked, okay? And I haven't got a lot of minutes here, so I got to get moving. Why isn't the question being asked on television or radio to Mr. LeBlanc? And I put that question out there to be asked, and it's ignored. I sent it to radio hosts, and it's ignored when he was on. Here's the most important question. In his report, he's saying Halifax, if Atlantic Schooners became a reality, came to fruition, they would have a Grey Cup game in Halifax within the first 10 years. And Ottawa had it in the first 4, I think, 2017. So how can that possibly be with a half a stadium? They'd have to build the other half a stadium. So Mr. McNeil said something interesting and asked about the support after this got over the first hurdle with the city, where they said they would give $20 million. He said it's got to be the right size and it's got to be big enough to hold big events. So what is that big event? What, he didn't say the Grey Cup, but that's the event he's talking about, because that's the most money that the province would get back economically, okay? Like in taxes, okay? So it can't be done with half a stadium. That's why he said that. It's got to be the right set. You've got to look at what the size of the stadium. It's like Mr. McNeil and the government, they're not stupid here. So I don't know why, like, that question's not being asked. That's a very important question, and we're not getting the answer to. Okay, so what I found out from the council is that this is just to get it to the next step. So I think here what's going to happen if this is going to transpire and come to fruition. The city's going to have to give more than $20 million. This project is never going to happen. I think the province now, because McNeil said in the New Year's Eve interview with Steve Murphy that they'd be looking at giving land and other ways. I think that's the Nova land. I found out Nova Court land over Woodside apparently now. I like Dr. McCrossan better, but apparently that's becoming more popular because of the ferry, right? And now apparently the council told me there's an offer in for land, so it hasn't been sold. So Mr. LeBlanc maybe didn't know that. So that's why I think Mr. McNeil said that on New Year's Eve night. Okay, so all right, so let's wrap this up. So here's what I think is going to happen. The feds could get involved, but the Canada Lands is not involved, so the feds may not. But the province is going to have to come up with land and a way of generating revenues. So not general revenues. Well, why is $80 million of our money going to an art gallery, Mr. McNeil? That's going to lose tens of millions of dollars, where a CFL team and a stadium would generate revenue, wouldn't, you know, for the province and the city economically. So I don't get it, and especially for a Grey Cup game. I was at the 107th Grey Cup in Calgary. I've been to 10 Grey Cups plus, so you know, I think Mr. McNeil has been to the Ottawa Grey Cup game because I ran into him when he was going, and I talked to him about this. He said the stadium guy. So anyway, all right, let's just you know, finish off. So I think that's what has to happen. That amount from 20 million, that donation for the city, is going to have to go up. Okay, and McNeil, and that's the way you make the deal, and you come back to the table, and the councils would, the ones that the 10 councils, they would approve another 20. That would be 40. I think that's where it's going to end up. And then with the land, and I think a way that the province can come up with the rest, and some sort of tax, whatever, or you know, the LeBlanc group's putting an entertainment tax on. I think it's going to get done. I really do, and I think the province will approve the loan. It's going to get done, I believe. Okay, so we're off that. Let's get into a few things. I got a few minutes. What's going on in the CFL? Okay, with the NFL window, okay, I was talking about it. It's brutal. The one-year contracts, it's made it even worse. They're releasing players because now it's something in the clause where the CFL owners, they have to make the team and not practice roster, or they can't be signed, okay? So with an NFL, so that's going to arbitration or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen with that in January sometime. There's a big dispute with they put the grievance in, the Players Association, of course. They're just ruining the CFL, the Canadian Players Association. You know, they don't give a crap ass about our game or CFL or come on. The turnover is insane. That's because how is Toronto ever gonna? How is Mike Pinball Clemens, his new general manager? How are they gonna get attendance? With the turnover like that, it's worse now with the NFL window. As you see, all these top players, Standback just got signed. The running back for Alouettes, and a lot of CFL players just got signed. And every player, including the quarterbacks, 3-year, 4-year contract, like with Bo Levi Mitchell, doesn't mean nothing. Every year they can go to the NFL, try to get signed in the NFL. Every player, every rookie, it's ridiculous. It's going to kill the CFL, Mr. Ambrosi. I'm sorry. And the CFL owners and the general managers, this is wrong. This has to change. You talk about 322 free agents, is going to be more than that now because of the NFL window. That has to change. My CFL Red Zone rule has got to be revisited, okay, for 2020, okay? They have an innovation committee now, rules committee, so they can try new rules. It better be in the front line. And I can't tell you, but something, you know, like, I got an email back from Mr. Ambrosi, and I really appreciate it. I won't tell you how I got that email back, but I sense from that, I think he had time to look at this in the CFL, look at my CFL Red Zone rule, you know, 2 years. So I think they see the value in it, and I think well, I hope, and I'm going to do something that I can't tell you, that I'm going to present my CFL Red Zone rule in a nutshell. I'm going to do a scaled down presentation. It's like an 8-10 minute read, whatever, presentation for the CFL to have it revisit, to have it tried in a exhibition game. And I'm getting straight up with you. This is what's going to happen, and it is happening. I'll soon be delivering that or sending that, and we'll see what happens from there. And so that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you some really good news. So I'm working on that, and it's almost done. And I'll be posting it up on my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule page. Also, my brochure, we're going to be putting that up and other things soon on my Facebook page. And we're going to revamp this to the brochure to get my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule in a nutshell, which I've done, by the way. It's pretty cool. They're going to be presenting to the CFL and the Commissioner. And my compact revisit of my CFL Red Zone Rule to the Commissioner of the CFL coming in 2020, what I call my revisit compact pitch presentation. And I hope it's going to work. So it's better to bring it in for the season and launch it and have a big promo on it than an exhibition game. But if it's tried an exhibition game, it will, I'm guaranteed, be made part of our CFL 3-down game. So we're getting close to the end. I guess that's how we're going to end it. I think I gave you a lot of information, you know, and I think that was a good thing on the Atlantic Schooners that I showed you in those videos. I think so. Have a good New Year 2020. So see you back in the spring, and I'll be launching a big, aggressive Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule promo, radio promo across Canada and every CFL radio city. And anyway, also, you're going to see more on my Facebook page and that revisit presentation to the Commissioner as well. We're going to be putting it up, my son and I. So take care of yourself. Have a good New Year. If something big comes up, I'll be back on before the spring. Take care. Signing off. Spyder, Spyder. Here comes Spyder, CFL Red Zone Rule. I guess I got a few more seconds. Do it again. Spyder, Spyder. Here comes Spyder, CFL Red Zone Rule.